Hello, welcome everybody. So good to have you all here from all of the team here at the Skin Deep. And it's so exciting to have you all join us today for what is the very first Skin Deep live event. We've got a really exciting run of events here. It's a very early morning here in Australia, so I have my coffee. Excited to get going this morning and have a great run of speakers. We actually have a special host that we've brought in for this event, who's a friend of the Skin Deep, Lauren Celenza, and we have a full schedule. So I'm not going to take up too much time at all. I'm going to bring Lauren onto stage and introduce her. So Lauren is a digital designer, writer, and advocate for equity and care in technology and the media. She is the author of Tech Without Losing Your Soul, a newsletter and interview series examining tech's power and influence across geographies, the burnout and loneliness of a tech-infused culture, and the possibilities for a balanced relationship between humanity and technology. So important as we get into 2024. Lauren's work has appeared in Fast Company, Forbes, CBS, and PBS. In 2022, she petitioned for the Silence No More Act in Washington State, prohibiting employers from silencing workers on issues of discrimination, retaliation, and wage violations. So we're super excited to have Lauren here with us. I'm going to bring her onto stage. There we go.
Hey everybody. Yeah, thanks, Ant. Hey everyone, I'm Lauren Celenza, your host. Yes, thanks, Ant. I'm so excited to be here. I'm coming to you from the beautiful Pacific Northwest. It's very cold here in Seattle, Washington today, so I'm hoping to get some warmth from you all. And I've got to tell you, I'm thrilled to be here today in this virtual space. Welcome to the Skin Deep Live book launch event. We are here in this new year of 2024, where 50 elections are happening globally, and there's been a lot of heartache, loss, wars, polarization, loneliness, and disconnection going on. And there's also the emergence of new questions around what it even means to be human and have a human experience as artificial intelligence advances. With all of this going on, I can't think of a better time to come together as a community and celebrate the exploration of human emotion, intimacy, and connection. The journey of the Skin Deep started with a simple idea: to illuminate the relationship, the space between two people, as they asked intimate questions and invited viewers into their emotional space. The Skin Deep's first project, the Anne documentary series, and now card game, was an instant hit, and the series garnered 55 million views and eventually going on to win an Emmy Award. 2024 marks the 10-year anniversary of the Skin Deep and the launch of the new book, 12 Questions for Love, a guide to intimate conversations and deeper relationships, written by Topaz Adizes, founder of the Skin Deep and creator of The End, who is here with us today. I've got to tell you, this book is expanding my mind, body, and soul with a formidable elasticity that I had long forgotten about. And as you can see, I've marked up all of these sticky notes on this book because there's just honestly so much here to discover. The book explores 12 carefully crafted questions drawn from thousands of candid conversations from real couples featured in The End, and offers a guide to feeling closer, more secure, and more connected with the people that we love. On page 195, Topaz writes, "Love is a practice. How can we indulge in it if we don't step into the space between?" So over the next hour, we'll be stepping into that space together with an incredible lineup of speakers. We'll hear some poetry from Bosco, one half of the spoken word duo GRIOT, some reflections from Topaz himself, and longtime participants of The And fan favorites, Keisha and Andrew and Ben and Sidra. We'll also hear reflections from the New York Times bestselling author and poet, Sonya Renee Taylor. And as we engage together in community today, I invite you to share your thoughts and feelings in the chat. Starting with, where is everyone coming from today? I'd love to hear what location you are calling in from today. So without further ado, I'm thrilled to introduce our first guest, Bosco, one half of the spoken word duo GRIOT. I first met Bosco when he recently co-hosted a live experience of The And with Topaz in Bucharest, Romania at Unfinished Festival. And I remember seeing the stage from afar and walking towards that stage and seeing you all perform and just feeling so alive witnessing it. So I'm so excited to introduce Bosco to the stage. He's also participated in the and himself, sitting in the chairs with the other half of GRIOT KO. Welcome, Bosco from GRIOT.
Day, I want to say congratulations to Topaz on 10 years of amazing work. As you said, Lauren, myself and my writing partner, we got the opportunity to participate in the and Skin Deep experience, and it was life-changing and informative, and I'm so grateful for that experience. But yeah, I'm going to be sharing a piece of poetry with you all today, and the whole The End experience is about conversations and connection. So this piece was written with that in mind, about connecting on a deeper level than just what we see at the skin surface, okay? Is it me, as in my body, or true intimacy that he's desiring? To touch my intellect through sexual prowess, or is the whole intent of this conversation's descent a ploy to be a physical miscreant? Something mindless, but knowing me, I want timeless. Now questioning can offend, in times past it has. My concern spurned with defense for simple queries about his past in an attempt to ensure a future on both our behalves to be filled with laughs. I'm just trying to be honest, adult about it. So can we talk? Not for a minute, but at length. Topics we need to address. Awkward they may be, but talks held with depth and sincerity are my priority. So what are we doing? Because my interest just ain't in screwing. I ain't that simple. I believe in love. Once had lost that belief, then I found it, made mistakes in it. But what I learned is that honesty is paramount. Conversations and talks are a must. Be upfront. My past, your last, because I want to connect. Not just skin to skin, but linking minds, intellect. I gaze as that cascade past endless horizons. My earth to your sky is where I'll meet you. In that space between, that line of the divine, the beautiful. On the crest of sunset where oranges hue purple. In that haze, I want that aftermath glaze. Heads crashing to pillows, but mine eyes fall solely onto you, unblinking because your beauty is all too much to consume. But can we talk for more than a minute about my past and your last? Because that's where we will live, in the conversation. That's the thing that truly lasts long beyond sexual gratification. When we old and gray, where my thoughts and your word consume the same space, tell me your insecurities, the things that make you fury, your proudest fails and your most worrisome successes. That's where our blessings will be manifested, in our humanity's truths. The crevices of your mind's corners that don't see light for fear of judgment and spite, but in actuality, in those feared lefts, was nothing but right. So again, this humble man asks, can we talk for more than a minute about my past and your last? Again, I want to say congratulations to Topaz. You have done amazing work. I was glad to be a part and look forward to working with you in the future.
Amazing. Not just skin to skin, but linking minds. Thank you, Bosco.
Thank you so much.
Spoken word to GRIOT. Yes. Amazing. And now I want to introduce you all to Topaz Adizes to the stage, founder of the Skin Deep and creator of the Emmy Award-winning project, The And. And now, after 10 years of producing over 1,200 conversations on The And, he recently wrote and published the book 12 Questions for Love, A Guide to Deeper, Intimate Conversations and Deeper Relationships. Topaz is dedicated to creating spaces to explore our shared humanity, unlocking the transformative power of deeper human relationships. And I can say that I witnessed his dedication firsthand when I first met him at Unfinished Festival in Romania, which led to this connection today. So thank you so much, Topaz, for being here and bringing us together today.
No, thank you. Thank you all for joining. I really am honored. This is the first time we've done something like this in 10 years. So I think I'm really grateful for everyone to be here. And ultimately for me, it's about the participants, over 1,200 participants who've opened themselves up, and I think Andrew and Keisha and Ben and Sidra who are here are really representing that whole lot of people who are courageous to be vulnerable and share their stories. And that's what it is about for me. I just want to make sure that that acknowledgement is made, because this project and this book and nothing would be without their courage to share. So, and also my team's commitment and focus to create the space for them to be able to share. But thanks for having me, and thanks to everybody for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thrilled to be in this space here with you, with the speakers and the community today. In your mind, Topaz, what was the impetus for bringing us together today?
Well, we have a book coming out. So it's also, we've completed 10 years of this project, and it's been a long journey. I started when I'm 37. I'm 47 now. I started as a single man. I'm now a father of 2. So it's been a long journey, and there's been many, many people who've contributed to it and participated. And I thought there's no better excuse than a book coming out to actually have an event that brings us all together and just acknowledges the time and energy and commitment that everyone's put in. So that's why.
Yeah. In the book, these questions, 12 questions for love, are intended to tell a story. They have a really intentional order to them. From the first question of what are your 3 favorite memories we share and why do you cherish them? To the second question of what was your first impression of me and how has that changed over time? Yeah. To the 5th question of what is the biggest challenge in our relationship right now? What do you think it's teaching us? Leading up to that 7th question, which you say serves as like a climax to the conversation. What is the pain in me you wish you could heal and why? So I'd love to ask you, why did you decide to write 12 questions for love now?
Well, I always knew that it would be nice to write a book, but writing is not my key language. It's not my safe spot. It's not the main way to communicate. And I actually don't like putting myself out there. I prefer creating the space for others and creating experiences and other things to be said without having to articulate it. But after 8 years, 1 week, I got an email from Jill at Sasquatch Books, who'd been a fan of The Skin Deep, and she said, do you think you would like to write a book about what you've learned from your experience? And what would be the 12, out of the many questions that you've asked, what have you seen are the meat and potatoes? What are the ones that work, and we could share why? And it's really her phone call. I mean, there's always a seed in the back of my mind, but it's really her which created the impetus for it to happen. And I think she's watching now, as well as her team, Sasquatch Books. And really, I mean, it's as much her book as it is mine in terms of creating this thing. And it comes from her watching videos, of which she's watched Ben and Sidra and Andrew and Keisha, amongst others. So I think there's that commonality. It's almost like a common sense of community or family that those who watch and those who participate know the value of it. And so then how do we share it, and how do we get into people's hands so that not only can you watch it, not only can you play the card game at home, but how do we give you the mechanics, and how do we put into your own hands so you could practice the exploration of the intimate relationships in your life? Because I think that's very important.
Yeah, on page 4 of this book, you say that my own journey through life has been defined as a search for intimacy. And you write a little bit about growing up and how you and your brother were well accustomed to your parents' divorce in your lives, and that you were often shuttled back and forth between homes. And, that one time while waiting for a red light in the car with your mother, she began to sob quietly. In that moment, you write, and that moment is when the first big question I can remember facing appeared in my mind. What is it? What is wrong here? I couldn't know it at the time, and this moment marked the beginning of my quest to understand intimacy. And then you go on to write about the lessons you experienced as you searched for intimacy and connection, into adulthood. On page 6, you write, more and more as I became mesmerized by human behavior and connection, I began to realize that in our modernizing world, this was something we were in danger of becoming less and less aware of, if not losing altogether.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to intimacy, what is one thing that you think is misunderstood or becoming lost in our rapidly advancing digital age that you hope to clarify or reclaim with the end experience and with this book?
Wow, there's a lot there. You made me sweat, Lauren. Like, you're bringing back the past. I think that experience, I think, is interesting for me, and this process of the book of writing it was just the understanding that pain that I had as a young human turned into a hunger and a search for intimacy, which then, through the ability to skills with the medium of visual medium, turned into a gift. The pain turned into a hunger that turned into a gift, hopefully an offering, and hopefully this book is an extension of that offering. I think what 2 misunderstandings that come to me recently with us putting the book out and seeing comments. One is I get, oh, but I already know my partner so well, I don't need to do this. we know each other. We've been married for 15 years. Like, there's nothing we don't know. I think that's a missed opportunity. I think that's actually one of the fundamental ideas of the book is don't take your relationships for granted. And there's oftentimes the relationships that are closest to you, meaning that you either spend the most time or they mean the most, that you take for granted instead of actually delving in and exploring. And there are so many ingredients there for exploration. And oftentimes we say, well, we already know each other. It's like, but don't you change? Aren't your feelings changing? Aren't your emotions changing? Maybe your love and commitment doesn't change, but what you're going through does. And I think that it's a missed opportunity not to share that experience of what it means to be human, what it means to be alive, the emotional roller coasters and experiences you have, to share with the people who are closest to you. Because in essence, it's a reflection back to you of who you are and what it means to be alive. And the other kind of misconception that I think I've noticed in one comment was, well, if you have love, you don't need questions. I mean, you have a normal conversation, as though the idea that if you have love, you should never not be able to have a conversation. As though if you're in that silent mode in someone you love, then maybe you don't love them. That's not true at all. And I think that oftentimes we are not taught how to ask well-constructed questions that can take us on a different journey. Because questions open up doors to rooms, and in those rooms are different spaces to explore. And if we're always asking the same question, we're always in the same room. If we create a new question, we're in a new space. And I think that's an oftentimes misconception.
Yeah, I mean, at one point in the book, you write, what would happen if we took the time to question what we as a society and as individuals want to accomplish in the first place? We focus so much on answers, on solutions, and very rarely do we actually focus on the question itself. With that in mind, I want to ask you one final question. This year marks the 10-year anniversary of the Skin Deep and everything that you all have done. What are you most proud about, and what about the Skin Deep remains unfinished?
We had a video we released this past Wednesday. Laura and Brad, they lost their son, Brady, less than a year prior to the recording, last December of 2022. I'm most proud of the fact that they trusted us to come in and share their story with the Skin Deep on this project, The And. And that's built on years of us holding space for people and respecting and acknowledging that humans are humans and creating a space for them to be so. And so I'm most proud of what we built, that we haven't succumbed to the clicks. We haven't titled things for clicks. We haven't edited things for clicks and views and virality. We've held true to an integrity of a long-term project. Hopefully our grandchildren will look at this when they're wondering what it was like in the year of the great pandemic and what were people going through and before and after. And I'm most proud of my team and I's commitment to doing that, and the fact that we're still alive, that we're still doing it, and that we're able to hold the space for people to have courage to come step into it, the participants primarily. So that's kind of what I'm proudest of. There's a second part to your question, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah. What about the Skin Deep remains unfinished for you? What's next?
That's a good question. I think we need 12 questions for peace. I think that's something that we need to go explore. And I think that's a question my team and I are asking is, how do we apply this format of The And, of two people speaking to each other? How do we apply it in different spaces so that we can create deeper empathy and understanding and deeper listening? Because I think we need that now more than ever. It sounds cliche, but I think we need it now more than ever.
I think so too. Topaz, it's great to see you again. Thank you so much for joining me in this conversation.
Thank you all. Thanks for joining.
Now I want to introduce some longtime participants and fan favorites of The And, starting with Andrew and Keisha. Andrew and Keisha made their first appearance on The And back in 2016. Hi, guys. 1 month after they were married, and have since become a firm fan favorite, coming back to The And 7 times. Welcome, Andrew and Keisha. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations to Topaz.
Yeah, 10 years.
I know, we keep being like, we've been doing this 10 years. We've been married almost 10 years. It's a good reminder. We were like, we were newlyweds.
Yeah, I think we were a month married when we did the first one. So yeah, it's been interesting to track everything over the last 10 years with the series.
Totally. And so I've watched all of your conversations together. And I have to say, both of you really take these questions and make them your own. Like, it's so cool to watch over time. These are a series of beautiful, lively, and heartfelt conversations about love, about fear, about parenting, about, the journey leading up to parenting, health, and even the silliness of life. Like Andrew asking Keisha, if every conversation we've ever shared was recorded, which one would you listen to again and why? And Keisha responding, the one where we took pictures of our buttholes, which is so funny. Oh my gosh. Well, you two are hilarious.
I think about that conversation often.
Oh yes, I forgot that we had broadcast that onto the
Yeah, well, Andrew, you mentioned that it was like a laughing, crying kind of night, right? And everyone does something weird with their partner, and that is part of finding that deeper connection. But in all seriousness, like watching the two of you engage in these questions, it does feel like watching two people kind of enter into this like higher dimension, honestly. Topaz writes it as like stepping into the space between, where the fast moving, tapes of life pause for a moment, so that the two of you can like see and be seen with one another and quickly yet deeply find connection. So, with that in mind, I'd love to ask you, do you remember what the impetus was for even doing the and experience in the first place?
The honest one was somebody emailed Andrew and was like, hey, do you want to do this thing? And I was like, okay. And, I think we're both the type of people who try to say yes to things that feel like they have good vibes and positive intentions. And so it was just us. I think we're two people who are comfortable walking into the unknown a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's also that thing of it just sounded fun, and we're always down to like take the fun option whenever it's on the table, and so we're like, yeah, let's see what happens. It seems like it might, if nothing else, it'll be really interesting.
And then we did it, and we had just gotten married, and we were like, okay, wow, all right, awesome decision. We did it.
Yeah, totally. One thing that I found really fascinating watching your videos was this moment where, in one of the earlier videos, Andrew, you ask Keisha, what can I do to improve our relationship? And Keisha, you respond with, to listen. And then years later, in another conversation with the Andrew, you ask Keisha the same question, what can I do to improve our relationship? But this time, Keisha, you responded with, taking better care of your needs. And what I found so fascinating about that was that, in a way, it's the same question over time, but this response, Keisha, is similar to what you said before, to listen, but there's a deeper layer there. It seemed as if years later you expressed like a deeper, maybe hidden truth behind the meaning of listening. That, to listen, it starts with listening to ourselves, our bodies, taking better care of our needs so that we can deepen our ability to listen to one another. And I thought that was just incredibly fascinating to see the evolution of how you were interacting with one another. How do you feel about how the and has changed your relationship with one another over time?
I think we were talking about this earlier in the car while we were dealing with a bunch of life things, but making space to keep asking the same questions. And I think, even hearing Topaz speak is a good reminder of, I think it's easy to let life go and you forget that, that you're not just a series of directives. You're not just sharing a series of directives with each other, but when you take those pauses with each other, like today, we took a pause in the car and it was just a 2-minute pause to ask those questions. And so you realize that you're going deeper if you I think of it as being curious. And I think a lot of people forget to be curious about the people they love, and being curious about yourself, the people you love. And I feel like we try to stay curious and hold space for each other with that.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
As we were setting up today, Keisha turned to me and she said, this whole experience of just doing the and has been such a great, an interesting opportunity for us to just do check-ins with each other as well. I think we do a pretty good job even on our own. Even before we were doing the and, we've always had like these like check-in moments with each other. But having these videos, or knowing we have an invite come, it's been this thing where we get to just kind of go a little deeper. Our check-ins are usually just like a couple of minutes here or there. Sometimes it's once a day, sometimes it's once a week. Just kind of like naturally, but when we get invited to the end, it's like it's a deep dive check-in in a way that I don't know. We should probably spend more time doing on our own, but it's just a great excuse.
I mean, that's the thing about whether it's the card game or anything else. Like all the questions for us are always a good reminder that like, oh, stop. Life can feel all-consuming, but it can be as simple as asking the questions that go a little deeper. Because the thing is, sometimes you yourself have to meditate on an answer to get to like, listen, what do I actually mean by that? What am I actually trying to say? Because we talk about it all the time. It's like sometimes in the moment you don't actually know the deeper thing.
We call it, we'll be like, I just need a minute to process, we'll say.
Yeah. And what's nice for us about the end, we're like, oh, deep processing time, slow down.
Yeah, that's amazing. And holding that space to slow down so that you don't take it for granted. It requires time. It requires pausing for a moment, right?
You really you can't take for granted.
Yeah. Yes. Without even noticing it. Yeah. I mean, I found, one of the most beautiful moments in your videos is in the video titled Our Last Sprint Before Becoming Parents. Andrew, you asked Keisha, if this was our last conversation, what is something you'd never want me to forget? And it stirred up an emotional moment. And Keisha, you responded with, I just need you to know how much I love you. With that in mind, thank you so much, Andrew and Keisha, for being here today. And I want to now invite up to the stage, and we'll come back with you all after we chat with our next couple, because I'd love to kind of ask you more questions with everyone together. But now I want to introduce another couple and longtime participants and fan favorites of the And, Ben and Sidra. Ben and Sidra had their first appearance on the And back in 2015 when the project was just beginning. They have since been back to the And 6 times, including sharing the chairs in the And space together with their daughter, Naya. Welcome, Ben and Sidra. Thank you so much for being here today.
It's awesome to be here. Thank you so much for having us. It's amazing to see the work that has been created, the body of work of genuine connection. I think certainly from when we first started, there's been a lot of this move towards, like Topaz was talking about, of clickbait and the resistance to do that, to create such an incredible movement in this world. We just feel deeply honored to be a part of.
Yeah, well, I feel deeply honored to watch your conversations, honestly. I've watched all of them, and what a sweet journey you two have been on, really. How sweet. It's amazing to really see the evolution of it as well. I mean, your first the And experience starts with questions like, am I the best sex you've ever had? To becoming parents, to navigating illness in the family, to participating, in the And with your daughter, Naya, to your most recent The And video titled This Will End Someday, where Ben asks, Sidra, how would you explain the story of us up until this point? And Sidra, you say, the triumph of our story is that we've learned how to grow together. So I would love to ask you, in what ways do you think the And experience has changed the way you've learned how to grow together?
I think there's been an incredible opportunity to reinforce how impermanent and temporary all of this is. when we first looked back at our first video before doing the second, we felt like so much had changed and so much was so different. And to reinforce how ephemeral all of this is, how fleeting our moments are, even if our relationship continues, gives you a tremendous perspective as you look forward. And I think the end really reinforced that for us.
We've said several times it's served as this, motion picture time capsule of our partnership and our family. And it's an incredible gift to have. And it's different than like the videos that you would take on your iPhone or something. And just getting to see the movement of your life and your partnership and what feels excruciatingly important. And then what other thing feels so important, several years down the line, really echoing what Ben says, is it's provided this really rich feedback loop that's been very treasured by us. We hope to do something similar with the And in the years to follow, but also we'll probably continue doing it if at some point the And is not taking those moments in time in the same way, because it's been very meaningful for us to capture that.
Yeah, I find like what's really fascinating is in the moments where you are doing the And with Naya, your daughter, it's, we've seen films capture children as they're growing up, which is always great. But what the And seems to do is capture the relationship between the parent and the child. And it's so rare that we see the dynamic and the relationship of that being captured in time. And it does seem to create, I think, Sidra, at one point you mentioned how it was like a family tradition, of this experience in time. I'd love to ask more about, we've seen you as a couple do this. We've seen you as a family do this. But did the And change the way you see yourselves as individuals at all?
Let's start with that one first.
Sure. I think for me, very candidly, building a positive perspective of myself has been a lifelong process. I grew up not feeling positive about who I was as a human being. And I think the And really gave me an opportunity as I tried to grow myself as a professional, as a partner, in all of the ways that I really try to grow and better myself. The And gave me a deep appreciation for the vulnerability and the depth of our relationship that I don't think I would have had the ability to be as reflective around. And so I think the And helped me continue to gain positive feelings about myself as I continued to grow and cultivate who I wanted to be in the world and how I wanted to show up.
For me, I think it was a couple years in. It was either the first or maybe at that point the second And that we had sat for, that we started to get recognized. It was really funny. Like we were in Croatia and this mom like bomb rushed us. Oh my God, my 20-something-year-old daughter, she loves you guys. She made me watch everything. When we were in Vegas, this waitress came to our table and started crying because, again, mid-20s, beautiful girl, started crying like, thank you guys so much. Just for the perspective that relationships like yours is possible. It's attainable. I can get that. And so the And changed my perspective about myself or our relationship, my perspective of our relationship, in that when you're in it, it's deeply personal, and it's just it's kind of your own little echo chamber between the two of you. And here was all of this external reflection finding us all over the world in places we were not expecting, that we're talking about our relationship and the deep meaning and hope, the hope that it was giving to them. And that's when I started seeing our relationship as slightly different than just ours, but also, you know, that we have something to share for all of those people out there who are wondering, is it possible? And the answer is yes, it is. It's not easy, and it's not going to not mean you don't work at it every day, but it totally is. So that would be my reflection on how the end has changed my relationship, with how I think of our relationship. Change the question a little bit.
Yeah, I love that. And it reminds me of one of the most beautiful moments that I found in your series together. In the end video, This Will End Someday, Sidra, you ask Ben, what's an unshakable truth about our connection to each other and what makes it so? And Ben, you respond with, we know where this is all going. The number of times we've dreamed of what it would be like to be parents, all the time we say it's happening. It's happening. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for sharing your truth with us. And with that, I want to keep Ben and Sidra on the stage, but invite back to the stage Andrew and Keisha. And we will do a little bit of a roundtable discussion together. Hey, guys. All right. So okay. I love having you all together.
Gotta get real close.
Love it. So watching all of your videos, you know, there's obviously like a vulnerability that comes with talking about some of the most intimate and challenging moments with your partner and then publishing it online. You know, in the book 12 Questions for Love on page 53, Topaz writes, getting the hang of emotional articulation may feel uncomfortable at first, but think of acquiring this skill as an act of service you're doing for your partner and everyone in your life. And then on page 38, he writes, before having a deep conversation with your partner, it's important to frame what you're doing and to enter into this experience with the shared intention for this kind of cathartic and honest conversation to unfold, bound by rules that will keep you both safe. So I'd love to ask you all, like, how are you able to navigate some of the discomfort and vulnerability in the moment of doing the and? And, you know, did any of you set rules for safety before you engaged in the experience?
That's a great question. I'll speak from my experience. So growing up, I didn't grow up in a house that was very good with handling vulnerable emotions. So that was always a hurdle for me to deal with, an acquired skill. One of the reasons that I was so attracted to Keisha when we got together was like we instantly had that kind of vulnerability with each other, and so taking that next step and doing it on the and felt very liberating in a lot of ways. You know, there's no pretense to be that open and emotional and raw. Just felt it felt comfortable in a way I'd never felt comfortable before.
I'll tag in next. I think when Ben and I sat for the and, we didn't come up with any ground rules of what we would or would not share.
We had no idea what it was going to be.
Idea what we were walking
we literally had no idea.
Okay.
A random friend was like, "Hey, this guy's doing this thing. You guys should try it." Like, we had no idea what this was at all.
Yeah. But we also we're clocking, it's going to be 20 years together this year.
So congrats.
I met Ben when I had just turned 21. I just turned 40. So we already knew each other pretty well, and we know each other's cues pretty well. So I think we felt really safe in navigating. If there is a hot topic that really doesn't feel uncomfortable, we know how to you know, kind of table that. In terms of emotional leadership and vulnerability, emotional leadership for me, it feels like an act of service, and I'm able to really get behind exposing myself, because what I want, which is connection, and usually it's usually connection. It's to feel really deeply close to someone. That's what I want. Very easy for me to gather my energy towards what I want, and also to feel this active service of emotional leadership. And so it feels strong to me. I don't feel like deeply sharing my feelings feels weak. It feels like the strongest thing I can do, because I have to be deeply secure in my reality and my strength. And in feeling really strong, in sharing, it feels good. And so that's traditionally how it's felt to talk about things that bubble up, and if it gets scary, I always tell Naya, acts of bravery are only acts of bravery when you feel scared. You're not doing it because
Absolutely.
It's easy. It's really hard. And I like feeling brave. So when it's scary, it's an opportunity for bravery. And that's what has brought me there.
And there is something for me in doing this. I feel like there hasn't been as many boundaries, because the idea of like, this is a chance to say the thing and discover things I wanted to share that I may not have thought to ask or been able to have the conversation before. Not having those things unsaid is scarier to me than not saying them. I live in a world where I try to minimize those kinds of emotional regrets as best I can, because it's very easy to put up walls. So the scarier thing to me is like, oh man, what if I didn't say that to you? So I feel like it's always the conversation right after we do the and that I was like, oh, and here's the other thing I wanted to say.
Unplug the dam.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's actually been focusing on the outcome. So it's like, you get up to work out and it's going to suck, but that when you're done, it's going to feel amazing. And after the first one that we did, there was like this amazing feeling, just this incredible. And of course, if you do it with the cards or you sit down and have the intentional conversation, there are other ways to do it. But there's something about the space that Topaz and the people that he works with are able to create that truly is magical. You leave the and feeling just this incredible sense of connection. You feel so alive. And so I've certainly sat down to do one of these and been like, oh God, okay, here we go. Like, big shares. I don't know what's going to come up. We've got a lot that we are always processing. And I know that when this is over, I'm going to feel incredible and so deeply connected, and this incredible sense of elation.
Yeah. I mean, it's an elation too, to like, even for myself watching it and not knowing you all, like I was thinking in my mind, like, oh yeah, like how would this perspective change my own relationship? And I was wanting to do the card game with my own partner, and like was really curious how we would answer it together. So it almost felt like watching it was opening up that moment, even for myself. Thank you all for your courage, your vulnerability, and your honesty. It really is beautiful. And I just want to thank you here for being here today.
Thank you.
So with that said, we're going to have you all come back at the end. And now I'm going to invite to the stage our final guest, Sonya Renee Taylor. So Sonya is a New York Times bestselling author, world-renowned activist and thought leader on racial justice, body liberation, and transformational change, international award-winning artist, and founder of The Body Is Not an Apology, a global digital media and education company exploring the intersections of identity, healing, and social justice through the framework of radical self-love. Sonia has also been an important collaborator with The Skin Deep, writing the foreword to the book 12 Questions for Love, co-creating the And on Racism edition, live hosting the And with Topaz in New Zealand, and also recently you participated in the And with your sister, a video that's dropping next Wednesday. So I can't wait to see that. Welcome, Sonia. Thank you for being here.
So glad to be here. Thanks for allowing me to participate in this great event.
Yeah, Sonia, I've personally been inspired by your work and voice for some time now. And I'm just so excited to meet you. And I think the fact that your work intersects so well with The Skin Deep is such a treasure. So with that in mind, what drew you towards writing the foreword for this book, 12 Questions for Love?
Well, when Topaz reached out and told me that he was doing a book and asked me if I would be willing to write the foreword, I think immediately I was so present to how there's just always been a sort of instant kinship between Topaz and I. We immediately knew we were each other's people, that we both recognized questions as such an important way to get to the core of understanding our own self, intimacy with ourselves and intimacy with the rest of humanity. And so I felt like an instant yes, but beyond that, the And it had such a personal relationship with my life. My sister who's in the chat, hi Jean. My sister was such a fan. Like she would just pull out the game whenever. We would just be doing whatever family thing we were doing. And she's like, let's play these questions. And the first time she ever did it, it was shortly after, I had met Topaz. And I was like, wait a minute. This all feels very familiar. What are these questions from him? And she's like, it's this thing called the And. And I was like, right. And so there's this beautiful way in which both I always felt this instant kinship with Topaz, but also that the And was already impacting my family. It was already impacting my relationships without me even knowing it. So it felt like an immediate yes when he asked me to write the foreword.
Yeah. And, you speak often in your work about the impact of social media, the indoctrination of it, how much of it isn't real. We've talked a little bit in this conversation today about, subverting clickbait. In the foreword for 12 Questions for Love, you write, we shortchange the magic that is inevitable inside of true connection, settling instead for a facsimile of relationship, a facade of intimacy. So having been a part of the And for some time now and recently participating in it yourself, what do you think makes the And real compared to the facades of intimacy that we see on the internet and media today?
I think it's in the name. Like it's beyond just skin deep. The questions are meant to get us to explore the deeper levels of knowingness with one another. And it's inside of that willingness to ask the thing that can feel uncomfortable, that can feel scary, that can feel right on the edge, right? But there's something in that invites us into a more profound experience of relating with one another. I have had so many beautiful experiences that would have come from the And the willingness to ask the question that holds time almost. And in holding time, there's this sort of layered effect of what all is in this moment. It's not just this question, it's everything that's moving inside of it that all of a sudden we have access to as a result of being willing to ask the question. And I think that's really what it offers.
Yeah. You also write in the foreword, we fear knowing and being known, and thus we don't ask, what would shred our self and social illusions. You go on to also say, we avoid the hard questions that would dislodge the stories of trauma because healing is scary. Why do you think healing is scary?
Because our trauma is the comfort we know. Healing is the unknown. It's the, if I am not this, then what am I, right? And I mean, I think so much of the world that we live in is contained by the terror of the unknown, of the fact that we can't see beyond this moment and consequently can't control it, right? Can't assure that it looks the exact way we want it to look. And so we settle for what it is that we believe we can control. The unknown is more expansive than what we can imagine. And so because healing is more expansive than what we can imagine, because it lives in that territory, it's a territory that's fearful to endeavor to sometimes. It's the reason why, I always think it's interesting that we have been so willing to go to all kinds of planets and colonize Mars and do all manner of things, but we don't be going to the bottom of the ocean, right? Like
that's right.
We don't go deep, right? And we don't go deep because it's dark in the deep and it's unknown in the deep, and it feels, and what grows there can almost not be fathomed. But also what's in the deep is rich. We know it's been cultivated in the depths of possibility. And so of course it's scary, and it's also miraculous, and so I'm just like, be scared and go for the miracle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love what you said about our trauma is the comfort we know. It's like we're so embedded in it that we don't even know that, that there's another possibility out there. And I think that's what is so interesting about the and and the space between, and even watching Ben and Sidra and Andrew and Keisha, is it's like this moment of like, hold on a second, pause, stop, like, let's reassess, and let's go deep. Let's go deep when we can't normally do that in the day-to-day. Yeah. So I want to leave with one final question with you, Sonia. In your work, you often say, and one thing that really resonates with me is, you say we are born for the time that we are supposed to impact. What moment in time is the and 12 questions for love here to impact?
I mean, I believe that we are really in a crisis of love as a species in this particular moment, that we have sold the idea of actual depthful love and connection for all of its facsimiles, for money, for status, for power, for security, for the illusions of safety. And I feel like this 12 questions for love is meant to help us reorient to what is essential for our evolution. I say all the time, like, we've tried to build the world on everything else, and we've done a really crappy job. But a world that is sustainable, a world that is actually has the ability to transform our social, economic, political, spiritual realities, is a world that has to be on the foundation of love. And if we don't have the ability to practice that with ourselves and practice that with one another, then of course we can't build governments that look like love. Of course we can't build schools and education systems and financial systems. And we can't build the things that we need as a society to survive if we haven't figured out how to build love as the engine of our own lives and our own interpersonal lives. And I believe that this book is helping us tend our soil in a new way, such that we might have the fertile ground to build a world that actually is compassionate and equitable and just, and sitting on top of love.
Yeah, love is the foundation. Love is the groundwork. Love is the fertile soil. Yes. At the end of the foreword, you write, "May these questions crack you and your loved one open. May you never close again." And speaking with you, Sonia, cracks open so much possibility. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
And with that, I want to bring back everyone, all of our speakers, back to the stage for a final question. Before we get into the final question, Topaz, I just want to quickly ask you, Topaz, how does it feel to listen to everyone today?
I'm grateful. That's I'm grateful. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. So I would love to ask each of you. I'd love to each of you answer this final question. So If you were to never do the and again, what would you never want to forget about the experience?
Do we all just go? Like, what's happening? I was just waiting.
Who wants to respond first?
I'll raise mine. Look,
all right,
let me say mine before somebody else does. But no, I would just like to say the power of honesty. The conversation that I had with Cole when we did our episode was beautiful and enlightening, and it sparked further conversation beyond the conversation that we had on camera. And that conversation after what happened on camera, I think was even more revealing. So it initiated a conversation that went to a deeper depth that I didn't even imagine that it could go to. So the power of just being honest.
The power of just being honest. Yes.
For me, the power that vulnerability looks like what it is with your partner. For us, it's play, it's joy, it's silliness, it's buttholes. But that's our vulnerability, and whatever it is when you show up and you agree upon it, it's perfect for you. So that like you can celebrate your unique vulnerability.
More vulnerable than buttholes.
What is more vulnerable than buttholes?
We're 10 years in. We could find out.
I don't remember this conversation from y'all, but I'm going back to find it.
Digging in the crates.
As soon as we get off it.
No pun intended.
It is quite literally the skin deep when it comes to that.
I mean, that's as real as you can get on that topic.
I would just say a thing that I would want to remember about the skin deep is how, and I think this is a testament to what you do, Topaz, is that space. This when we come on and we shoot, it feels sacred when you walk on. When you bring us in, it feels like this very sacred space. Everyone is whether it's us or the crew, everybody's very respectful of that space. And I think the big lesson that I've taken away from that is even when Keisha and I, when we have our moments at home when we're trying to have those moments of expression and connection, those moments also still feel like sacred spaces for us. It's not a place for judgment. It's a place for understanding and connection, and processing, and being able to. I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I learned from doing the and that I brought into our everyday life that I would never want to forget.
I think for me, if I were to remember one thing to continue with the and, it's never stop asking each other hard questions, even if we've been together for 20 years.
I think for me, I mentioned just how serendipitous, unexpected, and unknown this whole endeavor was, and there are people out in the world making incredible things that are really impactful, that are trying to make the world a better place. And you never know when you will be given an opportunity to contribute to it, to participate in it, to be a sounding board around it, and look for those and lean in. It's a great, incredible opportunity.
I think I would never want to forget that, what the and demonstrates for me is that curiosity is the passport to possibility, that it opens the door for what might come into being if we are willing to endeavor to know each other a bit more deeply and to ask the questions that get us there. And so I hope that we all keep doing
that. For me, obviously, I always go back to I'm always blown away by the people step into the space and are sharing, and that's always an honor. But I think personally for me, because I've done it with my dad twice, and then I did it with Justin, and they're both up. For me, it's joy. It's even for me, who's watched it for 10 years, and then I had a conversation with Justin, who's a good friend for 16 years, and we never had that conversation, and it brought us closer. And it was so joyful to have that conversation with him. I mean, the conversations with my father are also fun, but I have those kind of conversations with Dad a lot. I mean, we just happen to have that kind of relationship. With Justin, we had it, and we jumped into this space of our friendship, and it was just so joyful afterwards. It was like we opened up this kind of wonderful Pandora's box of connection and emotion that was there, but we never like played the strings of that instrument, and it was just beautiful to hear the sound. So it's the joy for me. That's the joy I'll never want to forget.
Joy, 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 joy. Yeah, we need more of it. We need more of it, especially this year. So as Topaz writes, love is a practice. How can we indulge in it if we don't step into the space between? I want to thank Ants, Topaz, Bosco, Andrew, Keisha, Ben, Sidra, Sonia, and everyone listening in today for being here. Sign up to the Skin Deep newsletter. It's called The Bridge. It comes out weekly with links to fresh content, shout outs, and special invitations and offers for the community. And 12 Questions for Love is available everywhere books are sold. You can also listen to Topaz reading the audio version, and features a forward read by Sonia and snippets and audio clips from many of the Ann conversations. Get it for yourself. Get it for your partner, your friends, your siblings, your colleagues. This book is a gift as we seek deeper connection and relationships this year. And there's also a discount code for those who are here, 12Q Live, and it will work for 24 hours from this event if you want to get 15% off from the book from the Skin Deep store. And check out the card decks, the postcards, and a special set of digital toolkits at theskindeep.com. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye for now.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Hey
guys. Thank you.